Good day. In addressing the psychology of personality, it's important to talk about attachment patterns. Our attachment patterns are defined by Maslow's needs theory in the sense that what the lowest level of needs is food, water, and shelter. But once that is satisfied, we seek attachment through relationships. And we cannot hierarchically advance to greater levels of actualization until we have achieved a level of attachment to others. Now, many times this gets construed as romantic relationships, which is in part a relationship, but most relationships are not romantic relationships. Later on, we'll be talking about Bonfim Renner's circle of social relationships, and we'll come to find that a very high percentage of the relationships necessary for us to actualize are not related to intimacy, but instead to relatability. Today, we're going to talk about attachment theory, Bowlby and Wainsworth's attachment theory, and how attachment systems work, and its evolutionary significance to us achieving higher levels of actualization and moving up the pyramid based upon secure, which is ideal, but not as common as we would like, and insecure attachments, which break down into anxious attachments and avoidant attachments. Of course, there are disorganized attachments which imply mental illness, but not part of our attachment system because we would consider disorganized attachments as detached relationships or detached relationship patterns. So we're going to start by thinking about a close personal relationship. Just think about this yourself, take notes if you feel the need, and what are the few words that define any close personal relationship that you've had during your life and its significance to you in just a few words. Well, what is attachment theory? We already know that there are individual differences in biology that have been passed down intergenerationally. And intergenerational difference in social upbringing, childhood raising, and outcomes in childhood based upon those differences, and the parents and their parents' attachment styles and sociology, including the effect of societies, which are very different geographically, ethnically, and from a heritage perspective, internationally, as well as culturally. Attachment theory implies that our cognitive capability is to bond upon birth with one primary caregiver. That primary caregiver is our attachment figure immediately upon birth or before. Research has implied that attachment to the mother's voice and patterns of reaction have been learned during the pregnancy period. Attachment behaviors are those behaviors that are associated specifically with our attachment to our primary caregiver and how that evolved over childhood development from a Piagetian perspective. The variety of childhood cognitive patterns which go age infancy to 2, 2 to 7, 7 to 11, and adolescence. But we need to start with the importance of contact comfort upon birth. And as such, we are going to play this empirical study about Harlow's research into why do infants bond with their mothers.
Newborn rhesus monkeys will grow up not in accordance with nature, but in the controlled atmosphere of a laboratory, where all the psychological influences of childhood can be duplicated. In a classic continuing study, infant monkeys are removed from the mother at birth and raised in semi-isolation. Other individuals can be seen and heard, but there is no physical contact, no interaction. Mother is a bit of plastic and shaggy cloth, a doll with no life of its own, but capable of nourishing the life of an infant. The monkey will come to depend upon this doll to satisfy basic necessities of life. Not only nourishment, but a deeper psychological need for comfort and security. In primate infants, there is an instinctive need to cling to another body, soft and warm. Food or security? Which is motherhood's stronger appeal? Alongside a warm, familiar mother of cloth is a stark wire doll set up as nothing more than a feeding machine. The young monkey is placed deliberately on a cloth mother which has no milk to nourish him, but fulfills some fundamental needs. This experiment revolves around one simple question. Will the infant monkey switch his affection to a wire mother which offers food and life itself? Only when forced by hunger does he loosen his grip and begin to yield to nature's most powerful internal drive. From the wire mother, he derives one thing: nourishment. No warmth, no comfort, no feeling of security. After feeding, he returns to spend up to 22 hours a day near the only mother he knows. From this inanimate object, the infant derives all the security and mother love he needs. He can, if also exposed early to other young, grow into a normal, well-adjusted adult.
So we now see that there are individual differences in infant attachment. These are called antecedents. These are differences associated with a variety of sociological and psychological factors. The Bowlby and Ainsworth attachment theory was established by John Bowlby, and Mary Ainsworth developed an attachment assessment in which she determined how it is possible, and this attachment assessment is still valid today, how it was that various parenting styles led to either secure or insecure, and again, in insecure, either anxious or avoidant attachment patterns. So let's take a couple minutes and talk and watch this video about how does Mary Ainsworth's attachment assessment actually determine a child's developed cognitive pattern of attachment, which is ideally secure, less ideally, but more prevalently insecure, and within insecure, either avoidant or anxious. Secure, avoidant, anxious are the three attachment styles that we saw in the video. What are the antecedents of attachment style? Well, a responsive caregiver that makes infancy, first 4 years, Piaget's first phase of development, 2, and then from 2 to mid preoperative stage, about age 4 to 7, a responsive caregiver will develop a secure attachment pattern, which gives that individual giant advantage throughout their life. Now, is this common? There are social stresses. There are parents that are required to work 2 jobs. There's daycares. And our social environment is not the same as it was when the American Indian tribe, the Iroquois, were studied by Durkheim's social integration theory, in which it was determined that they had an advanced society in which the responsiveness of the social fabric was there to develop secure attachments. If the parent is unresponsive to the child's needs or less responsive than fully responsive at some level, depending upon the susceptibility of the individual, they could become avoidant. And or inconsistent responses to child's needs could become anxious. And an anxious attachment style leads to anxiety lifelong as an effect that will need to be managed throughout that being's existence. So think about, what style of attachment did you form with your parents? Just take a couple of notes, internalize this, try to be honest with your, in exploring your id. No one else will know. So obviously, we have a non-judgment discourse pledge in this course, but there's always that fear, and it's ideal for us to explore our intrinsic selves, who we actually are, not what others seek for us to be. So spend a couple minutes exploring your attachment style. And then add to it what experiences led you to that attachment style. And then, what impact did that have on successive relationships beyond your primary caregiver relationships? Their circles. The circles of increased societal influence, whether that is academics, in school, in religion, or family, extended family, and others in your social circles, at work as well. We're going to prepare a Socratic seminar. If this is an in-person course, we will be conducting a seminar about what advice would you give to parents who wish to ensure that their children form a secure relationship. If this is not an in-person course, there is a discussion post that requires a 250 to 500 word cited discussion, and then 150 to 250 respond to another student. So what we're talking about here is from a Piagetian perspective, Jean-Paul Piaget's theory of childhood cognitive development, what we're trying to accomplish in raising our children, which is secure children, because they're likely to have better relationships. They're likely to have ease of interacting with other people and being better evaluations as far as more comfortable to be achieving skills because of the comfort, safety, and security that they achieved from their relationships in the Maslow pyramid. Second level, relationships that provide safety, security, and comfort. that safety, security, and comfort is best achieved with secure childhood upbringing. They're able to persist on challenging tasks. Insecure and avoidant are likely to become bullies. Always lacking empathy towards others' feelings because that empathy was not provided to them as a learning experience in early childhood. Difficulty making and maintaining relationships because the interoperability doesn't feel safe, and as a result, the connection with others is more competitive, more of a power struggle, less of a empathetic, attached, secure, seeking relationship. This transcends to adulthood in very predictable ways. A secure attachment is easy to get close to others. Whether this is family, work, school, intimate relationships, religious relationships, or any circle of support. Avoidant is uncomfortable with being close to others. Difficulty finding trust is the definition. Nervous. Although the difference between being nervous when anyone gets close and anxiety is the difference between avoidant and anxious. I find others are reluctant to get close because I often worry that my partner doesn't really love me. I feel unloved. I feel that because of that anxiety that I always had when I was a child, that all other relationships mirror that. Romantic relationships are attachments, no doubt. But again, when we talk about Bronfenbrenner in the next exercise on how to cultivate effective relationships, we're going to learn that attachment in the Maslow sense is largely associated with sure romantic relationships, but all relationships, which the majority are not romantic. Attachments in dating are those that the people get concerned about and tie the word attachment to. Again, most of our attachments do not involve intimacy, and hence our attachments are massively important to our sociological significance in society and our ability to move up the Maslow's pyramid to more efficacy of our role with others. Our role on teams, whether those are work teams or sports teams or just teams of others who we gravitate towards or seek out. The tendency is to have a partner of a very similar style because the comfortability of the relationship that we learned in childhood is automatic. It is fixed. And without thinking through that tendency, we will gravitate towards hopefully very secure others, but also possibly anxious and avoidant others, which we might say are the preponderance of relationships in our very competitive and over-competitive society. Although secure partners are attractive, an insecure person is not going to magnetize a secure partner. A secure person is going to seek another secure person. The influence of partners and relationships are significant in our ability to function effectively and deliver efficacy to not only our personal goals, but in actualizing our identity. The tendency towards seeking someone that is not in alignment with our safety and security can lead to a circular effect which causes us to max out on the Maslow pyramid in just the idea that we're constantly in the search for effective relationships which are supportive and comforting, and never get beyond that. So relationships achieve security. More satisfying relationships, higher levels of security. Less conflict, less power struggles than an avoidant or an anxious relationship. Take a couple minutes, look at your romantic and non-romantic relationships and what experiences each one of those led you to. Romantic, non-romantic, and the different experiences that each led you to, given your view of your attachment style. So, relationships are probabilistic, meaning they aren't constraining, but they probabilities that if a secure attachment is developed during childhood, a person will end up cultivating, gravitating, and attracting other secure relationships. It's probabilistic. Can that be modified? Of course, because anxious people can break this fixed pattern through critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and growth mindset in order to consciously affect the relationship probabilities that they might otherwise unconsciously magnetize. Early childhood relationships are probabilistic, no doubt. Create fixed patterns which are challenging to overcome and related directly to propagating intergenerationally this design protection from one generation to the next to the next. Can it be improved upon? Through cognitive, conscious growth mindset. And again, not to overemphasize, but it's exceptionally important to realize that there is an attachment to seeking, to applying all this to romantic, intimate relationships because of the impact that those relationships can have given pair bonding. The fact that there's an oxytocin bond with an intimate relationship makes it that much more impactful from a positive and negative affect. But the preponderance of our relationships are not intimate, and the need to successfully cultivate a full range of relationships have a tremendous effect on our familial interactions, our business interactions, our work, our study, our academic, our religious, and all social constraints that we endeavor upon, because those are largely not intended to be intimate.